You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. If you're a smoker or dipper looking to make a change, you really only need one reason to do it. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you can find many. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch. It's made with only 6 simple ingredients. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Learn more about Zyn and find your reason to make a change by registering online at Zyn.com.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Welcome to the Big Suey, presented by DraftKings.
Why are you listening to this show?
The podcast that seems very similar to the other Dan Lebitard podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that.
In fact, the only difference seems to be this imaging.
I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries that if they're just there. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
And now, here's the marching man to nowhere, Fat Face, and the habitual liar.
What's up, Dom? Domonique, how are you?
What's up, Christopher?
There you go.
How are you? Hey, bud, you guys make me happy. It's good to see all of your smiling faces.
You make us happy.
I didn't know you were coming on the show today, Domonique. I was just texting you because I was listening to your podcast.
Oh, okay. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Either way.
Tell Charlie to suck it.
I can't. Oh, I see you now. I have the screen is chopped up, so you're the top in the right corner. They got some bright lights on you, and they are whiting you all the way out on my screen.
Mm-hmm. Brights.
Yes. Hey, Lucy.
Hi. I haven't been allowed to speak today. Do you think that's all right?
No, I don't, actually.
Thank you.
You know a lot about college football. I think that you should be allowed to speak.
I think so, too.
I haven't listened, so I don't know. I guess I should ask more questions. I don't know it's possible that you could have said something so egregious that you should be on probation.
I literally didn't get the chance to say anything. That was the problem.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry about that. And somebody tell Mike I'm sorry, and I love him too, about this weekend. It really hurt my feelings.
They won't even let us talk about that.
Oh. I'm not a hater. Like, I was rooting for Miami. I'm enjoying them being good. Now, I guess Georgia Tech had one good weekend, but now one good, exciting team is less good and less exciting. It kind of sucks.
I thought it was fun.
Yeah. All right, we're coming back here.
Lucy is claiming she's being silenced, she's being censored, but this is just scheduled. Domonique Foxworth is here now, and he clearly doesn't want to talk about the University of Miami football team. He's here to talk about professional football. And so, Lucy, I'm sorry, we're going to have to postpone it for a little while. It's not because we're against women, and it's not because we don't want to celebrate the University of Miami losing. It's just because Dom was scheduled here.
Usually when you have to say it's not because we're against women, it means it's because you're against women.
Okay, well, I don't know who you have me being more against here, women or against talking about Georgia Tech defeating the University of Miami. Which am I more against, do you think? Well, not interested in your opinion, actually. Let's get to Domonique Foxworth now, because the Domonique Foxworth show is something that a lot of people are listening to now on Mondays and every day, but especially on Mondays because his football analysis is a little bit better and more thorough than everyone else's. Let me start with a couple of things, one of which is, where would you say you would start any show today if you were talking professional football, if you only had one storyline and you had to say this is the storyline of the day on a fun Sunday?
First of all, I'm going to need you to do your podcast rankings at some point, because you say that foolishness about everybody who has a show anywhere. Yes. This is the best thing ever. Mina's show is the best. You want good football? Go to God Bless Football. It's the best. Ron McGill knows more about animals than anybody and anything. Like, the hyperbole? I want real truth. Like, if my show is great, then say it's great. But you know you don't even listen to it, do you, Dan?
I didn't say your show was great. I said that the analysis was better than most I find in the places where I'm looking for the astute. Nice. I didn't say it was a great show. I said the analysis was good.
You're good with words.
I've also never listened. Yeah, and I don't like your producer. Never have. Charlie Kravitz is overrated. Industry-wide, everyone knows it.
I will not stand for you disrespecting my co-host.
Just
but
truth.
the producer Charlie, he can get it. Charlie, the co-host, the vanilla snack, as the ladies call him, he is not underrated. He's got a little fan base brewing, a little fan base think Charlie and his curls is kind of cute.
Jessica's shaking her head. I don't know what she thinks of Charlie, but that didn't seem like
He's a Commanders fan. He was my enemy yesterday, and now moving forward, he will be my friend who I think that I'm better than.
Domonique is out here as one of the few. You're not going to like what Domonique has to say about your Steelers. He doesn't believe that they can hold up with Russell Wilson throwing 50-50 balls all the time.
She knows.
I listened to the show. I listened to the show on my way into work this morning. I know what Domonique thinks, and I know what Bill thinks of the Steelers. And you know what? That's fine. No one needs to believe in the Steelers. I'm having a great time. There's been 7 Sundays this year where I've gone to sleep in my little bed, happy watching Mike Tomlin press conferences where he's saying that he's a degenerate. And you know what? That's all I need to sustain me through this long, cold winter, Dan.
Mike Tomlin is lovable, and we all love him. And the Steelers are a really fun team that I think are going to make the playoffs and probably have a chance to win a game or so. But that good sleep that you've been having, it's going to go away when you look at who you got coming up on the schedule, because you have the best quarterback and the best offense in football, and not to mention Derrick Henry. So as good as your defense has been, this will be a very big test for them going up against the Ravens, but you're going to score like 35 points against the Ravens defense, though. So you got that going. Shootout is what you got.
Who's better, 8-2 Steelers or 4-6 Bengals?
I think the 8-2 Steelers are better. Like, the Bengals defense has been an issue, and their inconsistency is a problem.
Well
I
said.
think they give games away.
Ouch.
They give games away, whereas the Steelers never give games away. I appreciate a well said from Chris Cody. It is nice. It's very nice. It's like Michael Jordan commenting on me jumping from the free throw line. It is impressive. The king of stutter stumbles has pointed out one of my stutter stumbles. I feel like I've made it now.
The Chiefs are the blank best team in football this year based on how you do the measurements.
4th? 3rd? I don't know. Like, I know that this is – the tough thing about watching the Chiefs is – they are entering that territory where they are no longer lovable, and they feel like they have a curse on the rest of the league. I know you do point differential a lot, and it's a great measurement, particularly for this team, because they line up well with last year's 8-1 Eagles team with like a 50-something point differential. And when you have a team that's undefeated and has a chance to go undefeated throughout the whole season, you think about the 07 Patriots, which we looked up. The 07 Patriots at this point, well said, were 230-point differential, I believe. Right now, the Chiefs are at like a 50-point differential. The tough thing about counting them out, though, is the things that they do well, it does feel like are sustainable. Like, it's ridiculous. Patrick Mahomes on 3rd down, and Patrick Mahomes in that team is outscoring everybody by a tremendous margin in the 4th quarter. Those things do match up kind of with the theory of this team just hits a switch. So I hate to say that it's possible that they can do it, because I've never seen it done before. But if any team can do it, they can do it. But blocking a field goal is an absolute fluke. Like,
okay, but wait a minute, though, Dom. When you mentioned the 07 Patriots, that's the best team of my lifetime. They overwhelmed, throttled everyone, and then they lost in the Super Bowl. This Chiefs team is not anything like that. And the worst part about this Chiefs team to me, they've ruined what I used to enjoy about Patrick Mahomes, because salary cap, everyone's going to be equal. You got to pay everyone. Now I'm watching the Chiefs, and it's like, yeah, on 3rd and 5, he's going to run for 6 yards, and they're going to keep getting it, but I don't like playing football that way. Like that, what that team used to be versus what I'm watching now, it's like, okay, they'll make their 3rd down conversions because he's amazing, but you're always doing it in 9-yard windows? Like, this is crud football I'm watching offensively that needed a blocked field goal to win yesterday because Mahomes got 2 scores.
Yeah, I mean, but I think you're right, and maybe the salary cap has some impact on it, but we can't blame the salary cap altogether, because we're looking at, again, to go back to the Ravens, best offense in football, one of the best offenses of all time. They paid their quarterback too. Like, there are ways around falling into this dark trap of blaming good players for getting the money they deserve for ruining the fun of our offense, or the fun of our league. So I don't think it's all on the salary cap. They've missed on draft picks like Sky Moore and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Like, these were the players that were supposed to launch this offense into the stratosphere and keep it going. And they have some major issues with, like, the left tackle. At a certain point in that game, Patrick Mahomes stopped dropping back with his back to his left tackle, and he started backpedaling because he could not bear the idea of turning his back to the left tackle because he kept getting hit in the back by Benito. So, like, yeah, there are problems with this team. And, yeah, when you pay your quarterback, it gets harder. You have to trade people away. But there's no reason for this offense to be so boring. And some of the issues that they're having is tight man coverage. They don't got anybody that can beat tight man coverage. And as good as DeAndre Hopkins is, he's going to win contested catches. And you expect Xavier Worthy to be the weapon that destroys all these defenses, but Patrick can't hit him on target sometimes, and sometimes Xavier Worthy seems to play like he's a rookie who's never played in NFL. And all these things come to become some big problem, but what happens is you get him in the fourth quarter, and Patrick finds a way to scramble where he's running like his knees don't like each other, and it's so uncomfortable and ugly, but he gets a conversion and it hits Travis Kelce in the middle of the field. Well said.
Has that not been weird to all of you to see Patrick Mahomes, who's not an old man, his body has aged so much that he is now officially slow? Like he's not like not that he was ever that much faster than everyone, but I feel like I remember the way that his youth has been extinguished. I've watched it televised. That he's no longer a young person. He's running around like an old person.
Yeah, he has an awkward gait. Like he doesn't run smooth. He reminds me of what Dan Marino looked like running with the football late in his career. He's older. He plays older than he looks in terms of running.
Well, but beyond that, though, Domonique, help me with something, given your expertise on how the athleticism in the sport has changed. I feel like in college and pros, every weekend, I'm watching something and see somewhere a catch made that I'm like, man, that's one of the best catches I've ever seen. Pickens made one of these catches in the game yesterday where he's flipping his body around in mid-flight. And I'm like, does anybody know how hard it is to do what that man just did in the end zone? Because that catch, I don't know if it's even going to get a lot of attention today, but it's one of the best catches I've ever seen.
We had a reverse hurdle last week. Like, I agree with you. The athletes and the explosiveness and the coordination and talent is at an all-time high. I think that's one of the positive kind of repercussions of, like, the professionalization of youth athletics is that you get guys where you sort through and find the right player at the right position for the right sport a lot earlier and a lot more often. And then they're practicing and they're watching and they have access to all these highlights from the time that they're 8, 9, 10 years old, and they're working on things and they're learning things until they get to the point where we see it materialize on Sundays. I'm not sure when this eventually stops. I guess it depends on what the inputs are and how those particularly change. And I think right now we're at a situation where professional sports has been so ingrained in our culture that prior to this, like when I was younger and prior to that, it was like, yeah, you would want to be a professional athlete, but it was like free agency, and that happened in '93, and that started to change where it felt like it was a real career path, and I think that the results is what we're seeing on Sunday. I'm not sure if it starts to tail off and we don't keep getting ridiculous athletes, because at some point, once you have a Derrick Henry, at some point you're like, look, it don't get no better than this. I mean, Lamar Jackson, it don't get no better than this. We cannot imagine that there are going to be some athletes at this level. You have these one-handed catches, like OBJ caught the ball with 3 fingers, like 50 yards down the field. I can't imagine that at some point someone's just going to go index thumb and snatch it out of the sky. Like, we're done. We're done evolving.
It is crazy. You're seeing yourself as an athlete during your prime, and you're realizing, even though you're one of the most confident people I've ever met and would have had to be to climb to the top of that sport, you're still looking at people and being like, I don't understand. Like, the physical nature of what it is that I'm watching in the last 10 years has gotten so much better that I feel old watching it.
Don't be stupid, Dan. I'm ridiculous world-class athletes. I'll cook them kids. If I was fresh and I ain't tear my ACL, I get my knee right, my quad strength. Now, I'm talking about everyone else, not me. Like, I would fit right in this era, in any era.
Chris Cody, do you have a read here that would support that commentary?
This segment is presented by LinkedIn Jobs. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/prep. Terms and conditions apply. Read it perfectly.
I'm proud to have Domonique Foxworth, and I'm sure LinkedIn is proud to have that analysis of I'm still better than all these kids. I just got to get my quad right.
Yeah, it's just the right one. The right one. Once you get an ACL surgery, sometimes your quads, they don't fire like they used to. It's a little depressing sometimes.
Where are you on the way that coaches in the sport have gone the entire other way on fourth down? Yesterday, during that Steelers-Commanders game, in his own territory, Mike Tomlin on 4th and 1 in a critical slot went for it while the announcers were saying 10 minutes left in the game, fourth quarter, you got to punt it here. What is your make of the way, your take on the way that all of this is changed? So it's the most common thing in the world now where the announcers are more risk averse than the coaches are.
Yeah, well, I'm happy that we're at a point that is acceptable to even consider and that there's a question there, because you're right. I think some of the best way to go about this is if you put yourself on the other side, what would you rather have happen? And most of the time, I want you to punt the ball. As the fan of the other team or someone who has some stake in this game, or you're just watching because you care a lot about football, I tend to want them to punt the ball because I feel more comfortable. 1 yard is not a big distance and it puts the game away. And then it really works really well when you can catch Johnny Newton, a young player, with a nice hard count at the end of the game, which is something also that you can do that we've never seen work, but it's starting to work apparently now because our players are getting young and they're super athletes who are not as smart as we were back in the day. See how you turn that, Dan? That's the difference.
Well, I saw Jessica. I agree with Jessica. Jessica yesterday said that that's the best play in football. It's better than the Hail Mary. You outsmart the other team. You make them jump offside. You leave with the smug satisfaction of we were smarter than you too. It's not just that we beat you. It's at the end we outmaneuvered you, and then we just knelt on the ball.
I hate that play.
I love it.
It never works. Like there's 9 out of 10 times, no one jumps. All you have done is force us to watch uneventful non-snap. But it happened to work this time. And you know what? That means that we're going to see this 15 more times the rest of the season. It's not going to work. Just punt the ball or go for it. Don't come out there and line up and start pump faking on me.
Am I the only one that felt bad for that guy, the rookie that jumped? Hands immediately on the head. It made me sad. I mean, I had the Steelers, so I was happy. But it was just, I was just like, aw, poor guy.
No.
The whole world knew they weren't going to, like, there was no play drawn. The whole world knew. It didn't matter. It was beautiful. He's perfect.
He's been really good, too, so far this season, which is, like, pretty disappointing, and it looked like he was shedding tears on the sideline. So, yeah, I felt a little bad. As bad for him as good I felt for Bryce Young, because I had the same feeling where I saw him, just big grin on his face. Like, oh, look at that kid. He's happy. It's nice.
I'm sure his mentions won't be a dumpster fire at all. I'm sure that the Washington fans with a season of expectations will just shrug that one off and say, it happens, kid. People make mistakes. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be fair, if there is a fan base that will forgive him, it's Washington, because it's been sad here for a long, long time. There have been so many moral victories. I think the Commanders are undefeated this season. The games that they've won and the games they lost, they felt so good about hanging in there against the Ravens. They felt really good. Well, I guess maybe they're getting to the point now where there's starting to be some expectations, but I do think generally this fan base is a lot like the Texans were last year, where not much was expected, and they're overachieving, so everyone's just incredibly happy, and then they stole that win on the Hail Mary play. I think if there's a fan base that's willing to forgive, and Johnny Newton's been a revelation on that D-line, I think a lot of people here in D.C. will hug Johnny and Jaden Daniels and accept just about anything from them as long as no one lets Jaden get hurt.
Do you guys have a favorite play from yesterday? Because I have one that I like better than all the others, and it's again Josh Allen rolling to the sideline, and just before getting to the sideline, right before the first half, throws it well down the field, and he's the only one in the sport who completes these passes. And Matt Collins not only catches it, but with 8 seconds left, gets up off the ground 40 yards down the field, and then runs out of bounds so they don't have to use their timeout. There aren't a lot of quarterbacks in the history of the sport who make that play, and he consistently does. Do you have a favorite play from yesterday, Dom?
I mean, Drake May did a similar, like Josh Allen near the sideline pass that was awesome. Baker Mayfield held off one of the Bosas with a stiff arm while delivering a perfect pass. Just about any of the interceptions, the 5 interceptions that Jared Goff threw last night and still managed to win. Like, yeah, there were some really, really incredible plays. I think one of my favorite plays, though, after the game was Micah Parsons throwing his head coach under the bus. It's pretty great.
Tell us more about what's happening in Dallas, because Micah Parsons makes a difference, but not, I mean, they were good in the first half defensively, and they were able to slow Philadelphia simply because Micah Parsons was there. But I could see why Micah Parsons would look around at his team and feel like, oh, no one here is as excellent at what they do as I am at what I do.
Yeah, but he hasn't been excellent all this season because he hasn't been playing much. And I am never one to tell someone, like, you can only do one thing at a time, but you're going to get some backlash when it feels like you are a much more active podcast host and a pretty good podcast host than you are a football player. And when you show up and dominate, and then after the game you suggest that the coach is kind of lazy, like, that's a hard thing for people to listen to. And whether it's true or false, this tends to not be the case for most teams. It's like if you have a criticism of somebody on your team, you handle it in-house. And it feels like the wheels have come completely off in Dallas. And Jerry Jones seems to be moving further and further from reality if he believes that this team is going to be competitive and they only got to do a couple things to get things right. The tension down there is going to be hot, like the spotlight's going to be hot, but the talent is not there to support the amount of attention that they're going to get, which only makes it boil more and more because they get so many questions. They're a national story and they stink.
Sunlight in your eyes?
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I
Sounds
guess
like you were singing
everyone
a
can
song.
be blamed. That would be a beautiful start to a song. You are the sunlight in my eyes.
Sunlight in your eyes. Okay, let's think of a way to sing that song where I will produce a song about the Dallas Cowboys, Sunlight in My Eyes. Mike Ryan, we can finally get to some college football with Domonique. Surely you will have some questions that will satisfy Lucy because she yearns for college football talk.
Domonique, you closely follow your Maryland Terrapins, and they had Oregon this week. And I'm not exactly sure if in college football there is a complete great team that you'll find consensus on that says this team is dominant. But I think most people might venture to say Oregon. What were your thoughts on them?
We had them on the ropes, Mike. We had them right where we wanted them. We were only down 14 in the fourth quarter. Everything was going according to plan. It was a tough loss. I mean, I think you're right. This team, and maybe this is the future of college football, in that it's not going to be any great teams that pull away because of the way that NIL has changed things in the transfer portal. I'm sure you know this better than I. I like it so far. I'm not sure how much I'm going to like it into the future because I do love those marquee matchups where I know that everything's going to come down to this particular Saturday, but it feels a lot more like the NFL, which I really enjoy. So I think it's encouraging. It sucks, though, because the stories are going away to some degree. Like the Georgia being dominant was always a story. Alabama being dominant was always a story, and that felt good and was exciting. And this year, like, I was on the Miami bandwagon. Like, I have relationships with people in Miami. I was enjoying it. Cam was fun. That was awesome. And then it reminds me of like the college basketball tournament where everyone gets excited for upsets, and then they realize at the end of the season in the Final Four that they're upset that the teams that are left are some terrible, like, mid-market teams with names we don't know, brands that we don't like. It's disappointing. So it was fun. The upset was fun, but I'm going to miss Miami. Guess they'll still make the playoff because they'll dominate the ACC.
Do you guys have not flawed college football teams? Is there such a thing? Like, is Ohio State and Oregon the closest thing that we're coming to not flawed college football teams, allegedly?
Indiana? Are they not flawed?
Impossible.
Yeah, I mean, I actually kind of like it a little bit better this way because it did get kind of old. I thought Georgia was going to three-peat, last year, and that didn't happen. It's fun knowing
now they're not even likely percentage-wise to make the playoff.
No, I mean,
correct?
They would have to win this weekend against Tennessee. I kind of like it because the SEC every year has always been Alabama at the top, Georgia at the top, and now you have Vanderbilt upsets, and Ole Miss is competitive. I kind of like that we're in sort of a different age where we're not seeing the same four teams every year, and I think with the playoff expanding, I don't think we're running the risk as much of teams we don't know and don't really like that much, making the playoff, with the sense that, you will have a Boise State in there. You do get a Big 12 and an ACC automatic bid, and those conferences aren't as strong, but you're still going to have Ohio State, Oregon, Texas, Alabama in the playoff. So I think it still gives the chance for the teams that are better than the rest to rise above the top. It's just the only thing that I'm concerned with that is everyone is playing a lot more games, so there's a lot more opportunity to mess up.
Dom, I'm assuming that they will lose at some point here, but I have been surprised to see, and it's one of the great surprises of the season to me, that Colorado would quietly start hitting Deion Sanders' $100,000 bonuses on 7 wins, that he's made $400,000 because quietly, the part that I'm stunned by is quietly Deion Sanders' team is a lot better than any of us expected it to be. What's happening there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think your answer is the fact that we're not paying attention to it is shocking. And I will go back to one thing that Lucy was saying is I think she's right. Generally, there have been more. It's just me being old and having a hard time accepting the new way that college football works, because there have been more like game of the century type weekends and more games that I felt like I had to watch this season than I remember in previous seasons. So that's been fun, and that's going to keep going on. But I have no answer for the Deion Sanders thing. The part that's surprising is that it's quiet. I'm not surprised that they're doing pretty well. They're not in one of those top tier situations where they're going to get a bunch of attention, but we should be there. I do have one complaint though. Like, no one stopped down to celebrate how I did the Dan move, where you sneak a double entendre in there and then everyone thinks that you're a fancy writer because you were like, hey, the upsets happen. And then at the end, you are upset. That was such a Lebertardian move that was really not worth it. No one said, ooh, you're a writer.
It wasn't that good. And he was impressed by himself.
It was off the top of the dome. Like, I'm in the middle. No?
The Golden Dome.
I think the thing with Colorado is that, like, I don't want to say, but like sort of the novelty of the situation has kind of worn off, because it was so overdone last year where all we were talking about was Colorado. And although that team is a lot better, and like you said, it's so much better than we expected, we've kind of seen all Deion sort of just like his big personality and the antics with this team that it's not as fun. Obviously, this weekend had kind of a weird moment with a tortilla that I don't feel like it's safe for me to talk about. But Colorado really controls their own destiny right now, which is kind of crazy. The Big 12 is wide open. Iowa State lost for the second week in a row. BYU is still undefeated, but like Colorado wins out and they make it to the playoff. But like it's crazy because their viewership numbers are down like 50%. No one is watching Colorado and no one is talking about Colorado.
I'll say, Lucy, it's Dan's fault. It's Dan's fault. He was going way too hard for Colorado last year when they were not as good. They've been better this year, but also the Big 12 as a conference is just much more even than the Pac-12 was last year. So even though they don't have much of a run game, their defense can't really stop the run very well. They're in it because the Big 12 is just a very strange conference this year. Their schedule coming up is tricky. They're going to have to go on the road at Kansas, which is going to be tough for them. But this is Dan's fault because we took up all the oxygen with Colorado talk last year, and now no one has the appetite for it. So this is just because of you.
I mean, it's convenient that it happens when he starts winning. That's awfully convenient. That now no one has the appetite
last year,
for it.
They were 3-0. That's why it started. But their team wasn't as good as it is this year. So then when they went on their losing streak, we were all like, "What the hell? You guys told us this team was great, and they were fun to watch." I'm not denying that, but they were winning last year. That's why it all started.
I mean, a year ago, when they started off 3-0, they became the most hyped team in all of sports, not just college football. And they ended up, whatever they did.
4 wins.
4 wins after a 3-0 start. Huge disappointment. And now they're pretty good, but they're still ranked 18th.
All right, wait a minute.
They play in a weak conference.
Just stop, okay? He inherited the worst program in the country, and Mario Cristobal and Deion Sanders have done good jobs in their second and third year, respectively. I'm not going to move the goalposts on what those investments were. Those have cashed. Both of those have cashed. Like, it may not be enduring. They may change, but don't move the goalposts on Deion.
Okay,
he's lost. He's got a team that's a lot better than any of us thought it was, and he changed the expectations by beating TCU at the beginning of last season. Like, he's made them good, and you can question how good if you want, but I'm not going to question how good his quarterback is, and I'm not going to question how good his wide receiver is, because both of them have been best players in the country type of good.
All right, I'll say it. Travis Hunter shoved a tortilla down his pants during the middle of the game. What? It was very odd. It was very weird. I believe he signed it after. Yeah. Weird.
Why is this seem so? Since I have access to Lucy and Jess right now, I would like to know, like, why is it that they're much better? And a question for Greg also: is that a new shirt?
It is a new shirt. Thank you.
Oh yeah, that's
for
nice.
my press
You look
box
good.
collection.
I think Shador
like somebody
signed the
cares about
tortilla.
Yeah, thank you.
The one that was in Travis's
nice.
pants?
I don't know about that. There was a hole in it.
Okay. There's a lot of stuff
There
going on.
was a hole in the middle of it.
What is that signed tortilla worth?
Whatever someone will pay for it.
Well, I don't know what the kids like with fame, but Travis Hunter seems to be very popular, and Colorado still seems to be very popular with young people because they're at least in part a little bit different than everything that surrounds them. It's rare that Shador Sanders spends some time lecturing us as a college quarterback. It's not something I'm used to hearing the college quarterbacks do. Because he's got a strength of voice that comes from growing up and watching what his father does in terms of strength. So, like, he's one of the rare athletes I see leaning into whatever it is your buzzsaw of criticism might be.
Are autographs still a thing?
It's a good
Do
question.
people still want autographs?
No, we do selfies now.
Yeah, selfies. Yeah.
I mean, it's a weird thing to start with. That it ever became a thing before. Like, if you actually think about it, it's like, who was the first person? I guess it's like pre-photograph. It's like you want to prove that you met someone. Is that why we have autographs? It's like, I want you to sign this, notarize it.
It is weird. You're right. Autographs are strange, and they have been replaced almost entirely by the selfie, because then you can have indeed the proof that doesn't require a notary on whether or not you met that person or not.
The signature doesn't even exist anymore, does it? Like when are you asked to sign your name? Nobody writes checks. I mean, the signature is dead.
I've signed 500 coloring books in the last week.
Put it on the poll at Lebitard Show. Is the signature dead? LebitardAF.com, 500 coloring books signed by everybody that is here. Domonique, good seeing you. Always good seeing you, sir. Thank you for the time.
No, it was great. Thanks for having me. Also, Greg, nice shirt.
Thank you.
I know what that means tonight. Baby.
Baby.
Really? Is that what it means?
I love a compliment because Dominique's sartorial eloquence is second to none.
Sartorial eloquence?
That's right.
Ooh, sartorial eloquence.
That means I dress nice, right? That's what you're saying?
Those two things don't go together.
They do.
No, elegance, you mean?
No, I mean eloquence. Yeah, look it up.
Yeah. Why are you trying to dumb him down?
I dress
What
like
he
I
said
talk good.
Off the top of the dome, too.
Greg, he does it to me all the time. Don't worry.
Well, what is that's not correct? Sartorial eloquence is not correct. It
is correct.
It is not a correct thing to say.
All right, look up the word eloquence.
Eloquence is to be grand in speech. It's to be. It's in speech.
Well,
Hey, my clothes talk. That's it. My
Exactly.
clothes look so nice that they say something to you.
Thank you.
This damn hoodie is telling a story.
Damn right
Thank
it
you,
is.
Greg.
Damn right it is.
Jeez.
The story
Speaking
is
loudly.
he's rich. That's the story.
Thank you, guys. That is the story it tells. Thank you,
story.
Domonique. Good talking to you.
The Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz is sponsored by BetterHelp. From the bottom of my heart, thank all the faithful listeners day in and day out of the Le Batard Show. Some of you have stuck around with us for 20 years. Some of you have just gotten here and starting to get into the tent. We appreciate every single one of you listeners because you make this happen every day. Whether it's been 20 years or a few months, thank you. And this month is all about gratitude. And along with the group I just shouted out there, there's another person we don't get to thank enough. Ourselves. It's sometimes hard to remind ourselves that we're trying our best to make sense of everything in this crazy world. That isn't easy. Here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people in your life, including yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DLB today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DLB. Thanks, guys.
Stugotz here for my friends over at Simply Safe. The holiday season is right around the corner. That means you're away more, and burglars know it. That means you need to protect your home. Right now, Simply Safe is giving exclusive early access to its Black Friday sale to Le Batard Show listeners. Simply Safe is the home security I trust to keep my home and family safe. Simply Safe is a new way to protect your home that stops intruders before they break into your home. Old school systems only take action once someone is already inside your home. That's too late. Simply Safe's Active Guard outdoor protection changes the game by preventing crime before it even happens. If someone's lurking around or acting suspiciously, those agents see them in real time, talk to them directly, set off your spotlight, and even call the police before they've had a chance to break in. Simply Safe is offering my listeners exclusive early access to their Black Friday sale. This week only, you can take 60% off any new system with a select professional monitoring plan. This is their best offer of the year. Head to simplysafe.com/DLB to claim your discount and make sure your home is safe this holiday season. Don't wait. This offer won't last long. Keep your home, your family, and your peace of mind protected with Simply Safe. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
If you're spending time with loved ones for the holidays, chances are you're going to hear a lot of stories. Stories you love to hear, stories you've heard maybe too many times. But if you ever wanted to help your loved ones capture those timeless stories, not just for themselves, but for you, your entire family, and also future generations, well, it can seem daunting to write an entire book of life memories, but Storyworth makes it fun and easy. And here's how it works. Each week, Storyworth emails your loved one a thought-provoking question that you get to help pick. These are questions like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? Or what's the farthest you've ever traveled? Or how did you used to get to school every day? And after that year of fun is complete, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. For instance, Violet, my daughter, is almost 5, and after Liz and I fill out this book, I plan to show it to her and maybe torture her with the golden era of what her parents used to be. So, families love Storyworth. That's why it has more than 35,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot, with millions of stories preserved since they were founded over 10 years ago. So help your family members share and capture their stories this holiday season with Storyworth. Go to storyworth.com/DLS today and save $10 on your first purchase. That's STORYWORTH.com/DLS to save $10 on your first purchase. Storyworth.com/DLS.
Don Le Batard. I took my son to the barbershop to get a haircut, and my man gave out some limp dap.
Oh, no.
Oh, damn. Stugotz. I disowned him. I threw him right under the bus. I was like, whose kid is that out here dishing out limp dap?
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Finally, we can get to what it is that Lucy wanted to talk about, and it's long overdue because this game that Miami played against Georgia Tech is Miami losing exactly the way that you imagined they would lose, outcoached in a way that was bothersome when Georgia Tech doesn't actually have a quarterback. They're telling you which play they're going to run by who it is they're playing, and they still run the ball. They convert easily on 3rd and 18s. They finish the game by running a sweep because you can't stop anybody. And the thing that they did that no one's been able to do, they took the team that is best in the country on 3rd down offensively and totally neutralized them on 3rd and 4th down, ended Cam Ward's Heisman run. Over, because he's not going to have the signature wins that he needs. He might get to the ceremony, but he's not going to be able to beat the teams. You're saying no, Lucy?
No, I think Cam Ward still has a very good chance of winning the Heisman. Agree. I think you have to put Travis Hunter and Ashton Jeanty in the conversation as well, but Ashton Jeanty plays for Boise State, and Travis Hunter doesn't really seem to have the juice that he had at the beginning of the season. I would still say that Cam Ward is the Heisman.
What are the signature wins? He's not going to be able to have a signature win.
Georgia Tech was never going to be a signature win,
The California win? No, he needed to go unbeaten. I felt like he needed to go unbeaten during the regular season and have some moments.
I mean, if that's the case, then just potentially give it to Dylan Gabriel. I think he's got an ACC championship opportunity that would punch Miami's ticket to the CFP were he to win it, and I think ballots are due 2 days after that, so I think that's probably going to be the barometer that most people grade him against. He can't afford another loss. There goes Miami's margin for error, but I think he's at plus 800 right now. These things, they ebb and flow. I think 3 weeks from now, he'll be right back in the conversation.
Syracuse and Wake Forest aren't going to give you the ability to have whatever it is that's needed. He's going to put up a couple of 4-touchdown games against.
All right, so that's good.
No, he's going to be statistically, he's going to have the best stats. But I remember how stubborn everyone last year was on Jaden Daniels. Like, they ended up being in a position at the end of last year where they couldn't ignore the stats because he was doing 10 yards at a time. But he had a number of games where you were remembering him be overwhelming against. You just
against like middling SEC people, because like sometimes he would get hurt against it. Like his marquee Heisman moments never really came on the most watched games last year, and he ended up winning that Heisman pretty easily. I think there's so much golf left in terms of the Heisman that you want to be hyperbolic and react. That was also my initial reactions. Like, he probably lost the Heisman, and then I realized no, this is pretty much where exactly a Heisman winner may want to be at this point in the season.
Who would you pick to win the Heisman right now, Dan?
No, it's a good question, because I think that I'd put at the top of anything that we're doing. I'm putting at the top the undefeated team that Oregon is at the top, and I'm going to reward the winning quarterback for winning is what I'm going to do.
That's not what that award is, though.
Like, anybody that watches college football this year understands kind of what Dillon Gabriel is. He'll execute that offense, but in terms of individual spectacularness, I'm
arguing that in the absence of Heisman moments in big games, the way that the voters traditionally do this, when you say, Lucy, you tell me if I have this wrong, but any Miami quarterback that's ever won has only won because at the end of the season they're the winner. It's not because they're the statistically best.
I would just say that, like, if you look at what Cam Ward means to this Miami team, and not just in the sense that, like, he's kind of the Band-Aid that has fixed all of their problems for this season. Like, he has far and away been one of the best players in college football, if not the best this season, where if you're going sort of with the, okay, I'm going to choose the quarterback from the undefeated team, I do think Dillon Gabriel is very good, should be in the conversation. He's broken like 1,010,000 college football records because he's been playing so long. But, like, with the exception of that, like, that Ohio State game is probably his moment, but outside of that, there's not like one singular thing that I'm like, yes, Dillon Gabriel earned the Heisman.
But in the absence of the singular thing, they tend to go to who's the best player on the team that went unbeaten. That tends to be the thing that happens.
Yeah, but that didn't happen last year, you know? I would just say that, like, I don't know if you're giving Cam Ward enough credit, because not only, I know that Miami
It's
did
not
lose.
giving voters credit. It has nothing to do with Cam Ward. My vote will go to him. It has nothing to do with Cam Ward.
Well, then, yeah, you voted for him. You're helping him out. Good job, Dan.
You're lamenting a lack of moments. Who's had the Heisman moments? Jalen Milroe had a Heisman moment against Georgia. Ashton Genty performed admirably against Oregon on
saying
Peacock,
I'm saying in the absence of Heisman moments, I have seen traditionally this award goes to whoever it is the best player on the team that wins the most.
I think Virginia Tech and Cal, those are Heisman moments. Those are moments in which everybody that would be voting and interested in this race are watching and are made well aware of.
I also feel like there's just more conversation happening about Cam Ward. I think if you look at sort of the national Heisman conversation, we're talking about Cam Ward more than we're talking about Dillon Gabriel, which I think makes a difference. It doesn't help Oregon that they're playing a lot of their games really late at night. They're playing it on Peacock. They're playing it in places where people can't see. And Cam Ward and this Miami team it's really in the national conversation, which I genuinely think helps his case quite a bit.
I think we're talking about Cam Ward because he took a 7-6 team that lost to Rutgers in a pissant bowl game, and he almost single-handedly has made them what they are. Signature moments, leading three second-half 10-point deficit comebacks, all for victories before
the California
before
game that happened late at night. And I will just tell you that while it is that Georgia Tech was good on 3rd and 4th down, that's the worst game I've seen him play this year.
Yeah.
His throws were off in a way that they normally aren't. And it's the game everyone was watching, because now you were watching Miami to lose. And again, I'm not making the argument against Cam Ward for myself as a voter. I've just got a history with these people who do the voting on this thing. They're not naturally inclined to vote for the Miami guy when I start doing the national stuff. And these statistics are great, but in a big spot where winning is the measurement at that position, they lost one and they were a double-digit favorite. And in that game, he was not good on 3rd and 4th down.
No, he wasn't.
And they're the best team in the country on 3rd and 4th down.
They used to be, yeah.
You guys do not respect Ashton Genty enough. That's all I have to say about that.
I would just ultimately dare the voters to vote for a running back from Boise.
Yeah.
He's having an insane statistical. He's averaging like 8 yards per carry against stack boxes.
He's incredible.
He is so good. And he ran all over Oregon, by the way, the team that's everyone says is, okay, they're probably the best team. They're probably the most dominant team. He had like 3 touchdowns and 200 yards against them earlier this season, and they lost by 3 points.
He's unreal, but I think if the voters face themselves with a Cam Ward that is leading a conference champion, CFP appearing Miami Hurricanes brand that finally wins an ACC championship at the end of the season, I think that's just too much, that the position's too valued, and I would essentially dare the voters to vote for a Boise State running back.